Hello and good evening. Welcome to EBN Prime Edition. My name is Gaston Wabumba and we begin this particular segment with lots and lots of information packed about the Finance Bill 2024-2025. How has your day been? Have you been out there protesting and occupying the parliament? I just got a joke here that says, kama mwanaume wako haja occupy parliament leo, asikuje kwa hiyo nyumba. Let's begin this gear. Groups including activists and citizens who've gathered in Nairobi to protest against the controversial finance bill have found themselves in a crossroad as police dispersed them with tear gas and some were arrested. This occurred despite opposition leaders and religious leaders trying to figure out and argue the government to hear the Kenyan protests concerning about the finance bill, which they argue will further burden Kenyans already facing economic hardship. Nairobi County Police Chief Addison Bungei strongly opposed the protest, stating that no permission had been granted for demonstrators.
Hapa in solidarity, sisi kama bunge la wananchi tuko hapa in solidarity. We reject the finance bill in totality. Finance bill 2024 must be amended so that those draconian provisions that are aimed at oppressing the people of Kenya are removed from that piece of legislation. Otherwise we will be in the street until that bill is not signed into law. Thank you. Bunge la wananchi wako hapa na tuko hapa na watu wetu wawe in solidarity forever. Solidarity forever.
Hii finance bill ya 2024 tumeikataa na tumeikataa katakata. Sisi kama wanabunge tunasema hii finance bill haijaangazia malilio ya Wakenya, na ndio maana tunasema tuliorganize hii demonstration, tuliorganize ya kwanza tukaenda parliament kuwaonyesha hiyo bill sio sawa. Tumeorganize hii demonstration nyingine kama watu wanabunge, na tunasema tutangangana nao hadi Wakenya wapata malilio yao.
Still on the same gear, tension flared between police and Kenyans who were protesting in Nairobi today, seeking to reach parliament and camp outside the building to pressure MPs to reject the Finance Bill 2024 as it represented for the second time today. After gathering Kenyans' opinions, some Kenyans stood firm in their constitutional right to protest and resisted arrest, while others were arrested by the police.
Madam, mbona umeshikwa? Tumeshikwa wenye wametushika. Tumeshikwa juu ya kureject finance bill. Na tumevaa black. Hii serikali inapenda kushika youth. Wamekataa finance bill.
Tungekuwa hapa ndani kama tuna pass the bill. So inamaanisha tunakataa the bill. We rejecting the bill, tungekuwa hapa ndani. Na tunataka aishi kila Kenya angekuwa hapa na sisi hapa ndani hata yanakataa hapa.
Hawana lori enough za kila mtu.
Mwenye atasoma mbele hakuna.
We must reject finance bill. Inasema basiwe iongezewe tax, mkate, diaper, pampers,
cheki hao ndio wanatax hadi tumetakiwa already.
Bunge munapenda hongo. Bunge munapenda hongo. Taenda nyumbani. Wabunge taenda nyumbani.
And Kenyans from various parts of the country continue to express their dissatisfaction with the 2024 financial bill. University students have also voiced their discontent with the tax proposal in the bill, urging MPs to listen to them and oppose the bill.
si wengi wetu sisi wanavyo tunatumia matatu, na kodi hiyo ya motor vehicle tax ikiongezewa, pia fare ambao sisi huwa tunatumia hizo matatu itakuwa imeongezeka. Na tunajuana saa hii pia uchumi umekuwa ni mbaya. Na jambo lingine, tumesikia kwamba kuna pendekezo katika huo mswada wa kuongezea mambo ya M-Pesa transactions. Wanafunzi wengi huwa wanatumia pay bills na tills katika kufanya ununuaji wa bidhaa mbalimbali. Pia hiyo ikiongezewa katika ile pendekezo, maisha yetu yataathirika pakubwa. Na kwa hivyo tungetaka kusema, tunawaambia wale wabunge ya kwamba waweze kupinga hilo pendekezo la mswada wa Finance Bill 2024 kwa sababu haina nia njema kwa mwananchi na haswa sisi kama wanavio kutoka vio mbalimbali.
When the taxes are invaded on the motorcycle, definitely fuel will go up and bus fare will be up. As a comrade, you put money aside for rents, transport and other things. For transport, it will go high. As much as we say that it won't affect us directly, we are being funded by our parents who have been affected directly by the finance bill. For them, the cost of living will highly go up, and it is already doing so.
From Nairobi all the way down to Kisii, residents of Kisii have urged the MPs to listen to them and oppose the finance bill, warning that they will face consequences come the year 2027 during the general election if they do not.
Sana sana mpunge wetu wa hapa Nyaribari Chache ambaye ni Sairi Chanda, tulimpigia kura asubuhi na mapema sana akachukua hiyo kiti. Watu walikuwa ni wengi, lakini tukamjawaa kama kiongozi na tukajua hata tutetea huku mahali sheria inawekwa ambao sio ya msingi. Kwa hivyo mheshimiwa wetu Sairi Chanda, wewe ndio tunaona katika hii nchi yetu ama katika Kisii town yetu kama mheshimiwa wetu. Unapokuwa punge, unapokuwa ukipiga kura yako, tafadhali usipige kula tu, ufikirie hii kura unapiga inaenda kusaidia wananchi walikupea hiyo kiti ama itaenda kuangamiza. Kwa hivyo na wabunge ambao tulituma watuwakilishe, na nyinyi kama mnaona kupandisha gharama ndio vizuri, fanya kila jitihada, harakisheni, pandisha kila kitu. Miaka yenu kwa karibu kuisha, tena mrudi kwa uwanja mwanza kutuomba kura. Lakini langu naomba mjumbe wangu Kibagendi, hii kitu kataa na ukatae.
Wananchi wote wanalia wasipandishe hiyo, wakipandisha na walipigiwa kura wakati wa mwaka wa 2027 watatupwa nje, wengine waingizwe ndani.
Mimi mbunge wangu ni anaitwa Chavez Nyakundi Githusu Chache North. Ukipitisha hiyo kitu, yes, jua wewe yaka haiko 2027 uko nyumbani. Na nataka kuambia rais hivi, rais, unakumbuka wakati ulikuwa unakuja Nyabururu Church ukisema boda boda mama mboga, sasa ukiangalia hii ni boda boda ama ni nini? 2027 uko nyumbani.
This was the kind of government we think will narrow the gap between the rich and the poor. But here comes a situation where the narrow is too light to excess that even the rich are complaining. So I was just asking our MPs on behalf of my fellow Kenyans, at least consider the right of minorities, because they are also human beings and they are also Kenyans. If we continue like this, then the country is heading nowhere.
Kitu ningeomba wabunge sana sana Osoro, Kimani, Ichung'wah, wacha kupea president kichwa. Nyinyi ni wabunge, angalia watu mlitoka na watu mnafanyia kazi. We are not slaves of Kenya.
And since the pressure has mounted, the government has removed some controversial tax proposals in the 2024-2025 financial bill, following public consultation and recommendation to scrap certain provisions that were seen as harmful to Kenyans. As lives follows, the Finance Committee agreed to remove the proposed 16% value-added tax imposed on bread after uproar from the public. Manufacturers had estimated that this should the finance bill sail through with the VAT, the price of standard bread would increase by at least 10 shillings. The head of state approved removal of excess duty on vegetable oil. Initially, the proposal had imposed a 25% excise duty on vegetable oils, which, according to Kenya Association of Manufacturers, could have spiked the price of cooking oil by 80% and caused ripple effect on other products like soap. A State House removed VAT imposed on transportation of sugarcane. In the contentious bill, the state had proposed a 16% VAT on transportation of sugarcane of sugarcane factories moved that spike could have made the spike of sugar prices. The committee removed a VAT on financial services, a foreign exchange transaction. Initially, proposal could have increased taxation on financial services from 15% to a whole 40%, which could make affected forex transaction. The new changes also revised proposed increase in mobile money transaction charges. Treasury had proposed on an increase of excess duty 15% to 20% on mobile money transfer changes. The committee further removed the proposed motor vehicle tax, which attracted immense uproar among the motorists. The proposal required all vehicle owners to pay at least 2.5% of their car value annually, with at least 5,000 as the base minimum and 100,000 as the maximum. The State House converted the proposed housing fund and social health insurance levies to tax deductibles, meaning they would attract income tax, putting much more money in the pockets of employees. The government dialed down the proposed eco-levy to levy only imported finished products. Locally manufactured products will therefore not attract an eco-levy, but manufacturers had complained that the levy would have stifled growth of the local manufacturing. The eco-levy will not only be levied on locally manufactured products, including sanitary towels, diapers, phones, computers, tires, and motorcycles. Small businesses valued at less than 8 million will not be required to apply for VAT registration. The proposal had earlier dropped the requirement to business with more than 5 million valuation. After months of push and pull, farmers and small businesses with less than a turnover of 1 million will not be required to register for the electronic transfer invoice, which we call ETIMS. Excess duties that had been imposed on imported table eggs, onion, tomatoes, and potatoes to protect local farmers. The finance bill had proposed introduction of 16% VAT. The committee revised the imposition in excess duty on alcoholic beverages and on the basis of alcohol content and not volume. The higher the alcohol content, the more excess duty it will attract. Consequently, alcohol manufacturers are expected to make safer and cheaper alcohol. The committee increased pension contribution exemption from 20,000 to 30,000 after concerns of budget cuts in funds set aside for recruitment of junior secondary school interns. The committee has also increased 13.4 billion to 18 billion. Finally, funds have also been provided to hire 20,000 teachers who are interns for the next month. The policy is now to transition teachers from internship to permanent and pensionable terms. After the meeting with President William Ruto, members of the Kenya Kwanza coalition, therefore, finance bill is present to Parliament. The head of National Finance Committee, Mr. Molo MP, listed some revised tax proposal, including taxes on bread and vehicles.
Transfer of mobile services is a key concern to many Kenyans, and therefore again we have proposed that we do not have any increase on taxation or mobile phone transfer. We have seen in the recent past the proposals that we've made on statutory deductions on SHIF and housing levy has added a loan on especially on salaried Kenyans, and therefore we have proposed that those statutory deductions now be allowable to pay, so they will not pay an additional pay on those. We all agree that environment conservation is a key concern. The fact that we've had a drought and a few months of floods and our drainage clogs, we have agreed that we need to make a good decision about how to protect our environment. And that is what the wisdom on the introduction of eco-levy. However, imposing this on locally manufactured goods would again increase the cost of those locally manufactured goods in the country and stand a risk of making them not competitive in the East African market and globally. Therefore, this eco-levy will only be chargeable to imported finished products. And therefore, all locally manufactured items, and especially including diapers and sanitary towels, will not be subject to eco-levy. We must make sure that we become a manufacturing country and not a trading country. And therefore, the imposition of this only on imported finished products makes our locally manufactured products more marketable to the, not just reducing the price, but also making them affordable to even export.
National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah assured Kenyans that leaders supporting the government have taken their concern seriously and will take decisive action. In a statement after a meeting of Kenya Kwanza MPs led by President William Ruto, the MP stated that the government had made amendments to the finance bill and removed some proposed taxes on essential items such as bread, baby diaper, mobile phone transfer services following public outcry. The controversial bill, which has sparked intense debate, will be presented to Parliament tomorrow for discussion, where all MPs will have the opportunity to present their views.
We are devoting more money back into people's pockets, especially the employed Kenyans who have been contributing to the housing levy. The housing levy has been proposed together with the Social Health Insurance Fund, the National Social Security Fund, and now the housing levy to be tax deductible. And that will ensure that what will be subjected to pay as you earn will be an amount less than what was there before. And therefore, more disposable income will be going to many employed Kenyans. The second thing that we intend to do is to encourage savings and investments in our country. Through the proposals that the chair has stipulated in terms of pensions, the allowable deductions that have been increased for pensions contributions. There's also an allowable deduction on post-retirement medical schemes to ensure that people start saving for their post-retirement, and those post-retirement savings or contributions into a medical scheme to cater for your medical care after retirement will be tax deductible and therefore tax-free. The other policy proposal in this finance bill is the protection of our local manufacturing industries and our farmers. We as a country have made huge investments with our farming communities, and therefore we are intentional on protecting those farmers. That is why you hear the proposals to levy excise duty on imported potatoes, imported table eggs and onions, and also the imposition of eco tax or eco levy on imported finished products. And I think as the chair has emphasized, it is imported finished products, because when the chair and the finance committee listened to stakeholders, especially the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, a very good case was made for protection of the local manufacturing industry. Therefore, to protect our local manufacturing industry and create jobs within our economy, we are therefore levying those levies on imported finished products, right from the borders, the motorcycles, to sanitary towels that are imported, and diapers and all that.
And with that story, that is how things have been across the country, in Kisii, in Nairobi. I mean, protests every single place. And now today, remember I'd started out with a chit-chat and told you if mzee wako haja occupy parliament today, asikuje home. And today, I'm very privileged to have a guest with me in studio, Izzy. How are you, Izzy, today?
I'm fine, I'm fine.
I'm told you're out in the streets and you made sure your voice has been heard. As a lawyer, your voice has been heard, and we appreciate that you aired out on our behalf. How was the test of the tear gas?
I think today we had a news talk from the government. I think they are overworking on the wrong department. I think we need new things from a different department.
Which is nice. So in a short while, I will be engaging Izzy. We will be unpacking what it is like, what is our constitutional right, and also we'll just be having a chit-chat about the finance bill in itself in totality from a legal perspective, and we will be right back after this short commercial break.
Are you craving something sweet to brighten up your occasion? Look no further. Juliet Occasion Cakes and Bakers Limited has got you covered. Discover a world of delectable treats that will satisfy all your needs. We take pride in our from-the-scratch recipe and time-honored baking techniques passed down through generation. Indulge in the sweetness of life with our delectable occasion cakes, from elegant multi-tiered wedding cakes adorned with lifelike sugar flowers and delicate piping, to whimsical kids' birthday cakes in the shape of their liking. Our handcrafted creations will make every moment memorable. Birthday cakes, corporate cakes, graduation cakes, wedding cakes, baby shower cakes, holiday cakes, bridal shower cakes. For orders, you can call or WhatsApp us on 0725 038 177. Juliet Occasion Cakes and Bakers Limited, aspiring to make your satisfaction our topmost priority.
It has been a very interesting day out there, and everyone has been running up and down and trying to occupy the parliament, which is why today I've welcomed a good friend of mine who will be introducing himself, who he is, what he's doing currently, and we get to unpack legally what this protest is about, and legally what do we know, how much should we know about this Finance Bill 2024-2025. Welcome, Izzy. Good to have you in the studio. Probably you can introduce yourself, what you do.
Thank you so much. So I'm Izzy Ngono. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya with 3 years standing. And also just an additional to what we're going to discuss, the finance bill, I'm also undertaking my CPA. Currently I'm doing my CPA 6. So I think I have an interest with the finance bill and how it operates.
Great. So our discussion today, probably we're just going to be starting off. We've seen quite a different sort of mandamano, if I might call it the Kimbi Kimbi Tuesday. You remember when you used to call it Kimbi Kimbi Tuesday? Now this has been a very interesting Kimbi Kimbi type of Tuesday, just that the dialogue changed a little bit and we called it Occupy Parliament. We've seen quite a very interesting shift. We've seen very young guys straight out, probably in campus or straight from campus, who took center stage of this particular demonstration. Is it right to stand and say solid and say Gen Z are finally waking up and saying, yo, it is our time?
I think it will be too early to make out such a statement, but I believe we are heading there. There's a certain shift that's moving from just tweeting and also social media, TikTok, just complaining, to a new shift where our young Gen Zs want to go to the street. They want to participate in the revolution, if you can call it a mini revolution. Mm-hmm. They want to do things rather than just typing and saying them. So from what I've seen today, there's a certain, from the age gap we've seen, I think I was participating with people from around 19 to 24. That was the main age gap around. And you will see a new sense of passion and a new urge to join these people in this protest. I think they believe that this is the way to go. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure the reasons. I don't have the full reasons, but I think they are tired of complaining as much on Twitter and not being listened to, because we complain a lot to texting, but the government doesn't listen. So I think the Gen Zs are out here trying to put out their word. They're trying to tell government, listen to us at this point. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a new shift, it's a new dynamic that might shake the country. Because we're used to just the millennials and other people just coming out. Probably we are saying it's the poor suffering, they're coming out to. So for now, we don't know which class to put them. We're not sure whether it's a poor, it's a rich, it's a middle class. We're just stating as a Gen Z. So if they all come out, we might have a different dynamics on how our mandamanos are going, mm-hmm. and also a different dynamics on how our politics will go.
Okay. Solidly to say, a revolution is in the offing, solidly to say. If you see Gen Z already out there and saying, oh, it's our time, then they come out in droves and droves of numbers to protest about this, then probably that is, we are just about to witness a revolution. So you'll allow me, we just delve straight into the matter of it. We've seen quite a number of people arrested during this particular protest. We've seen people maimed. We've seen clips and images of ladies harassed by cops. If in your own legal framework, what are some of the rights, legal protections that protesters have under the Kenyan law, particularly regarding freedom of probably assembly and expression in this context of this kind of demonstration?
Okay, just like you've mentioned, if I delve into the constitution, we have mentioned there's a change on how we are rioting. But I think it's either we don't have a change in how the police are handling the new rioters, or we have decided to stick with our old ways. I think our police are not yet Gen Zs. I think we're dealing with the old police officers who are used to arrest people. But just to mention, the Constitution of Kenya protects the rights of each protester at any point in time. What we have is people expressing themselves, and the Constitution allows that. So there's a process. If you look at the Constitution, there's a way it moves slowly. First of all, it speaks about the freedom of expression. You can express yourself, either shouting, going to the streets, that's expressing yourself. You can cry as a way of expression. Then the Constitution moves slowly to assembling. So you can express yourself by assembling as a multitude, to jointly or collectively demonstrate. That's a form of expression. And from this movement, all of these freedoms should be protected by the Constitution. And that is clearly stated, I believe, in chapter 1 and 2, where the people have the direct right to govern. So when they express themselves, it should be something that's reasonable. Then the Constitution also clearly states that if people are to be arrested, there are ways in which they should be arrested. There are ways in which trials should be made. Article 47, 48, 49, and 50. And I believe that's a point in which the police are missing. In also the National Police Service Act, there's need to have, as these people are arrested, how are you treating them? It should be in a proper way, justifiable. A reasonable force should be used. And what is reasonable depends with how the protesters are approaching you. For example, today, I believe this is one of the most peaceful protests I've ever seen. I've participated in many. We have sweared some of the people in, which was stated as illegal. But for today, people have been walking to Parliament. How do you manage such a force? Is it by just pouring live bullets, tear gassing people left, right, and centers? It's not the way we should handle. Reasonable force is relative. Depending on how the people are also approaching the police should be sober enough to see how they are approached and also use reasonable force.
Absolutely. Speaking of about the police response and whatnot, over the years we've witnessed water cannons. Today, as a norm, you've said today you tested a very different brand of tear gas. In Akaya Ruto, imeenda a group of schools. There's been proper arrests. Personally, I saw a lady trying to be manhandled, and then she stood firm and she said, "No, you cannot arrest me." And then she went all out and said, "People power" and whatnot. So, what are some of the legal standards governing the issue of tear gas, for example, water cannon, the arrests? What are the legal remedies available to mwananchi per se who believe that their rights have been violated? Umepigwa tear gas, unaona mazis kuna fa kupigwa tear gas.
Yes. So I think that, like I've said before, the force has been a bit excessive today. I've personally witnessed it, and I've also tested the bad force of the police today. I was actually, immediately I went into the streets, the first thing that came to me was a water cannon. Sharp. I'm not sure whether they knew I'm going into the protest or not, but that's the first thing that appeared before me, and also the tear gas. So personally, if I would want to express myself and also sue the police, there's an option. We can sue the police in court for using excessive force. Okay. And I believe you will be compensated immensely. And I think it's also time that our courts should start appreciating such cases that come before it, so that the police might learn a lesson. And the damages that should be paid can either be paid by the National Police Service or even to the individual police officers who use the specific force. For example, now we have videos capturing the specific police officers using live bullets, shooting all around. It's high time we stop this by also courts pronouncing themselves decisively on these issues. I believe if 2 or 3 police officers are dragged into court, charged appropriately, both criminal and civil, so that everyone can be compensated. Just to mention one thing, last year, I believe in the course of last year, there's a lady who was killed in Kisumu. As a student was killed in Kisumu. Up to now, they have not received compensation. We are going into more protests tomorrow, probably the next day after. How many people will we lose by actually using excess force before the police realize that this is not a normal norm? There's need to change, probably the practice and everything. So if anyone wants to do a case, I think I'll be willing and able to do such a case in a pro bono level so that we get a good precedence from the courts.
Okay.
Yes.
Speaking of about detention and whatnot, we understand that when some of these individuals are arrested, normally some would go into panic and frenzy and would ask, what as now that I've been arrested, what options do I have? You as a lawyer, can you advocate for the rights of detainees, including the demands for prompt access to legal presentation and fairness?
That is what we all need to advocate, especially as advocates and also as citizens. We need to put proper legal education also to our citizens so that they understand the process after the arrest. For example, when you're arrested, there is no need to panic. These people, it's not a process where you're being taken to jail automatically. There's a process which should be followed before you are officially detained. What you're being done to at that point of time is being taken to custody as you wait the processing and also going to court. Actually, the Constitution of Kenya mandates the police officers to arraign you before court within 24 hours. Not more than that, not 25 hours, 24 hours exactly. First point, after the arrest, they need to book you officially. What you have seen today, actually, I was on my way to Central Police before we were again disbursed at Jivanji. I think Wakilis have seen the taste of the tear gas better. Because we were protesting something. You bring people into the police station, but you do not book them. The family members do not know where they are.
Or rather, why they've been arrested.
Why they have been arrested. The first point after the arrest, I think we have watched a lot of movies, but you do not practice them. The first thing the police will tell you, your mistake. You're being arrested because of this and this and this. You have a right to remain silent. Such a thing should be happening in Kenya, but it doesn't happen. You'll never see it happen. But when you have been arrested, you're taken to custody, they book you officially, then you can request for a police bond. The police ought to give you a police bond and allow you to come to court tomorrow, especially for cases we call misdemeanors. Those are small cases that you should not be detained with. Then tomorrow, probably if it's tomorrow, they're supposed to come to court. You come to court, you are given your police bond. If it was 10,000, you put to the police, they need to give you. CJ Koome gave a directive that it needs to be first returned to you before you proceed with the case. Then after that, if you plead not guilty, the court gives you what is called a court bail. So you can choose, if it's below the 10,000 probably that you gave out, you can choose to also pay that as a court bail, then you're left free. You can proceed with the cases as you're out here.
All right.
Yes.
Good stuff. So probably as we delve into that, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're watching us, we'll be happy to read some of your comments, pass them through us, and we'll be happy to read them. If you have any question for Wakili, please pass them through our number down below your screen. I'll be able to read them out and then share with Wakili and just get to have this particular discussion in the next couple of minutes and get to understand your law much better, especially if you're out there protesting and you feel like, you know what, nilikanyagwa mguu kidogo. Please feel free. Drop down a text. I'll be happy to read it out to Wakili and we'll be happy to present it to you. So Wakili, I wanted to understand legally, what constitutional authority does Parliament have in terms of approving or rejecting these particular tax proposals? And how does the public opinion influence these particular decisions at the end of the day?
According to how the Constitution was framed, if you look at our Constitution, the difference between this 2010 Constitution and the previous Constitution is basically public participation. This Constitution has brought a lot of things which include the power of the people. If you look at the first when you open the constitution, the first page, the first thing you see, the power belongs to the people. It can be expressed indirectly or directly. That's the first thing you open. But our leaders have not yet appreciated the fact that that is in the constitution. I think we are used to our old leaders who were used to the 1963 constitution where they will do what they want. In this case, public participation is a very important thing in any bill that is to be passed. For example, the finance bill that we're speaking about, it ought to have been the first thing, taking the views of the people, what they think should be done, what they think should be included in the finance bill. Then we go to the other processes. There is a first reading, the second reading, the third reading. All these processes, you should do what is called public participation. But what we have seen in Kenya, before we go to that, the constitution says that public constitution, according to the framework, if you read it, it should not only be seen to be done. It should not only be done, but it also should be seen to be done. So if you are not aware that it has been done, there is a problem. We can't say that it is done in a small hall and 90% of the people are not aware about whether public participation was done or not. So the most important thing is, do the masses know that public participation is being done? What we saw with this finance bill, a few individuals were called in a building. Give your view about this, give your view about this. Specific sectors, KAM were called, LSK were called. But that was not the starting point. It should have started way earlier before even the first reading was made. But to this point, we're just seeing views being made to please Kenyans that we are actually listening to you. But if you see even the amendment and the proposals being made, there's nothing these people listen to. And also the interviews that were made. For example, the interviews by the head of the committee, the finance committee, he was very categorical in several media stations that there is nothing we shall be amending. Actually, Kenyans are surprised today. After the strong views and chest thumping, we shall be doing nothing. We shall be doing nothing. All of a sudden, there's a change after being summoned to State House. It shows the lack of principles in creating the finance bill, lack of any economic knowledge when you're creating such a thing. So I think there is a problem in our legislation and also our legislators. We are not yet there in terms of thinking independently and also allowing people to undertake public participation.
All right. One of the other questions that I had that has just popped up from a good friend of mine, he asks, this is in regards to social, economic, and equity. He says, how do tax policies, including removal of punitive taxes, contribute or detract social and economic equity in Kenya? And what are some of the principal guidelines that an MP is achieving in balanced and equitable tax system?
I believe it's a complex question, but
it's very complex.
From the socio-economic aspect, I think from the basic knowledge, even I think our MPs should be understanding this, from the basic knowledge of tax, such laws that are being created, first of all, should be simple, understandable, such things. I believe less than 5% of Kenyans understand the finance bill. It's one of the most complicated bills in Kenya and even in the world. For even a senior person to be reading, most of the CPA cases do not even understand. They depend on other people's opinions to actually tell you what it says. But the impact of it socioeconomically, basically the first thing when a finance bill is read, you might see changes in different fields.
Absolutely.
You first of all, you'll start seeing investors aligning themselves to a certain field. Where are the tax exemptions going to? You will see more investors in that field coming in. Where are the tax increasing? So you will see people withdrawing from that specific sector. And already from the business environment in Kenya, every Kenyan will admit there was a certain fear. There is already a certain fear in this finance bill 2024. Investors are already packing. They're thinking of an option 2. Finance bills it's not a matter of just bringing it and then amending it once after 2 hours meeting in State House and taking tea. It's a matter of creating investor confidence.
All right.
If you can't do that consistently every year, even after amending this finance bill 2024 today, for example, it's being passed in a different way tomorrow. But me as an investor, I'll be fearful what will happen in 2025. We're just lucky that some few people decided to protest and the government decides that, oh, probably we need to rethink about this. But investors are asking themselves, is this a fair field where we'll also be safe in 2025 or not? Which I believe the answer is a big and a clear no. If an investor comes to me at this point and tells me, Isa, I'm from Australia and I will want to invest in Kenya, I will ask him the first question, have you thought of Tanzania? Have you thought of Uganda? Because in this field we are having right now in Kenya, this is a political field that everything is done according to how the president wakes up. And I think according to how his mood is in the morning, he might decide to wake up and do an amendment to the finance bill, which is very risky for investors. So in terms of socioeconomic impact of the finance bill, I think we are having a very big problem. The government has not noticed, but we will feel the ripple effect in the next 6 months of the shaking things that are happening at this point.
Thank you, Eze. Ladies and gentlemen, this is ABN Prime Edition, and this is how we would want to have this particular discussion going on. Remember, the Parliament is sitting down tomorrow because of this finance bill. And one of the key things that has really come out, and which many people feel that this could be a bait of sorts. VAT on bread, the 2.5% on motor vehicle taxation, the financial services, which now the government has taken a backseat and said, you know what, has taken a foot back rather, and said, you know what, we are scrapping off this. Do you think the government tried to oil this so that it looks like it's going to now to be the savior of the day?
I believe so. I believe so. And I think we had a discussion a while back where we were saying, I think it was a very good term, it's a dangling carrot. I think the government is trying to put a swindle on us. Where will people cry or not? Let's just put a lot of proposals. Then when they cry, we remove some of the things and leave some of the things. If you look at the proposed amendments today, it's just a small fraction of what we are complaining about. But the government is clever enough to notice, the same way we are being lied to about the Hustler Nation. It's the same thing, the same trick I believe it's being used at this point in time, where you're being told that the most crucial thing about this finance bill is the bread. Think about the bread, and it's being brought to all the news stations. Think about the bread, think about the motor tax. But I believe there are three main sectors that the government is not talking about, and they have not touched about it today. First of all, the government has not mentioned in its discussions about the Data Protection Act and how the government plans to infringe on that. KRA has a big plan actually to get your data, bypass the Data Protection Act, which was brought to us in 2019, a very perfect act. They have chosen not to amend it, but they're looking for a loophole through the Finance Act to bring it in where KRA can access your data. That alone is a reason to reject the entire finance bill. That alone, because if you give such a government access to our data, it's very easy to even add more taxes to you or claim more taxes to you by just providing pictures. We have seen pictures on Facebook where they are claiming tunakuangalia, tunakuona. When you post a small Range Rover, you see, tunakuangalia, have you declared tax? It won't be a joke anymore. That will be evidence in court. Yep. When such things are approved, KRA will just bring some very basic evidence that we have seen he has this. It is for you to prove that you are earning this amount, and that should not be the basis of it. There should be a legal procedure on how such documents are retrieved through the Data Protection Act. It is safeguarded. So such things, and also cancer treatments and that thing have not been mentioned, which I believe the government is playing a joke on us. And I think this is the Kenyan money heist. Kenyans need to look beyond that. Even after the amendments, we need to advocate for rejecting the whole entire finance bill. Yes. All right.
Thank you so much, Izzy. Probably this will come to a conclusion of our discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about 9:45 in the PM East African time. Izzy, your parting shot about this finance bill, and then I can come back and we wrap this up.
Okay. So that
is your camera.
My parting shot on this. It's high times as Kenyans we start what is called a mini mind revolution, not just physical of removing our leaders, but we need to revolutionize our thinking. Start thinking, what are the jokes being played on us by our leaders? What are they doing? Are they doing it properly? We should be asking questions. We should be questioning the whole entire process, not just some 2 process part-time, then we are happy. We should even question why the amendments were done in State House by the government side and not involving everyone. So we should start asking questions. If possible, if the questions are not being answered, let's express ourselves. We can assemble, we can gather, ask the questions in the streets until the same are answered. I believe with that, we're heading in the right direction. I urge all the Gen Zs to come out, speak about it tomorrow. I think tomorrow at 9 p.m. I'll be there and I'll be leading the Moi Avenue branch protest, and I believe everyone should join us. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Ize. We hope to see you in the streets. Ours would be to flash our cameras on you and cheer you on. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been EBN Prime Edition. My name is Gaston Wabomba. I just want to thank everyone who's made this particular transmission a success. From our transmission room, Mose and everyone else, Chibalonza for putting up the scripts. All our sound system guy, we say a big thank you, and everyone who's already tuned in and watching us from wherever, Malin, Ayana, watching from home, I said thank you so much. Bashiri, thank you so much for always supporting the hustle. God bless. Good night. Till next time, my name is Gaston Wabomba.